Hi, people. All right. Well, this is kind of exciting for me. This is my first Facebook Live workshop. I've done a lot of workshops online for other organizations, but this is, and I've done Facebook Live on my page, but this is my first workshop for people who follow my page. So, welcome. The topic is living with a narcissistic ex. I can't tell you how many referrals, how many people I see seeking support in this situation. So much so that, it dawned on me I should just do a workshop. People can access this information. So that's what we're doing here tonight. A workshop on living with, managing, if you will, a narcissistic ex. I've been asked, is it applicable to living with or managing other family members? And the answer is absolutely yes. The strategies are going to be the same. But having said that, this is targeted more specifically to the situation where it is an ex. There's no charge for this workshop. It's voluntary. If you want to do an e-transfer to me for any amount of money, I value the workshop at $100 to $150 per hour. If you were to be meeting with me more privately, it'd actually be way more expensive than that. But you don't have to pay. I'm just making this freely accessible. But I'm hoping some of you will consider, for my time and energy towards this and expertise, making even a token payment. It could be $1, could be $5, could be $150, whatever you want. You would do that as an e-transfer to my email address, gary@yoursocialworker.com. But you know what? That's at your discretion. I'm going to prepare to share my screen. Give me a sec. Where am I? Here we are. Okay. I want to share my screen. Share screen. We will come back to that in a bit. There we go. The workshop, The Narcissistic Ex. I've subtitled it a survival guide. So yeah, anyways, voluntary pay. I think this workshop would be worth $100 to $150 $100 to $150 a person. Look, you got to know, I stutter sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I stutter. So bear with me with that. But you can attend at no cost. If you find it of value, something to my email address. For those who don't know me, I'm a social worker. I'm in private practice. I'm 67 years of age. I've been working with people now for 41 years. I don't know, 5,000 to 10,000 people over the course of my career. In addition to social work, I've done a lot of work in the media, radio, print, television, and newspapers. I was the host of a reality television show, Newlywed, Nearly Dead, 65 episodes on the Slice channel. I was the parenting, family life, relationship columnist for the Hamilton Spectator newspaper. Over the course of 13 years, I wrote some 650 columns. And I've been interviewed on radio and TV some 600 times in my career. So there's that about me. I've been to court many times on family-related matters, offering my input, guidance, and recommendations to the courts on matters considering children of separated parents. Courts in Ontario have deemed me to be an expert in social work, marital and family therapy, parent-child relationships, child development, custody and access recommendations, even an expert at assessing the work of other assessors. So I'm bringing this experience to the situation, to the workshop tonight. If you want to know about my services, how I go about doing things, what I charge, excuse me, go to my website, yoursocialworker.com. I'm quite transparent. It's all there. And so you'll have a sense of how I do things, which quite frankly is different to how my colleagues do things. So you can read about those differences there. All right, bit of a disclaimer here. This is not therapy. This is a workshop. In therapy, I ask you a ton of questions. Kind of makes me different than my colleagues as well. Not everyone asks a lot of questions. I do. And in my therapy, I don't just ask you, how does that make you feel? In fact, I actually rarely ask, how does that make you feel? Rather, I hear what you have to tell me, how you answer the questions, what I learn about you, and I give you my feedback. Here's what I think is going on. Here's what you may want to do about it. And I provide a lot of guidance. A workshop, by definition, is much more general in nature. I'm not here to do therapy with anyone. I'm here to deliver some information that you may use at your discretion. So I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm just giving you information which hopefully will be helpful, but may or may not be helpful. So, therapy, it's designed to be introspective or facilitate behavior change on a personal basis. As, a workshop, this is information for you to use. This does not constitute a therapeutic relationship. I do not know who is on the other side of this screen. I do not know what you are going to get out of this. I do not know how you're going to take this information. This is not a therapeutic relationship. This workshop, it's not going to end all your issues. It certainly is going to give you some things to think about. Absolutely. What you do with that, up to you. It may help with the management of a narcissistic ex. No guarantees. It's not what this is about. All right. I sat back and I thought, how do I want to organize this workshop? And what a lot of people, when they call me looking for help, they're really, really focused on the person with whom they're having problems. And they either want to know why that person is the way they are, or how to get them to change, how to get that other person to change. You're going to learn here tonight that it's not about getting the other person to change. It's about how do we manage them. The onus is on you, on us, those who are dealing with a narcissistic ex, to learn skills for dealing with them more effectively. And so, I do like to talk first about examining one's own vulnerabilities. How did I get messed up in this? Is there something about me that has made me vulnerable? Then, I am going to explain a little bit about narcissism and define it a bit. Then we're going to talk about how do you manage the narcissist in your life? And then we're going to talk about how do you support and manage children? Because those of you who have seen me or follow my page, you do understand and appreciate that the care and management of children where there's a narcissistic ex is a challenge in and of itself. So this is the agenda for tonight. Moving right along. So examining your own vulnerabilities. I think this is important because inadvertently, some of the folks I meet with wind up going from the frying pan to the fire. Is that the saying? I think so. From the frying pan to the fire. They inadvertently may get caught up in another relationship with yet another narcissist. And wow. So is there something about oneself that may create the conditions to be vulnerable to a narcissist? And so I'm going to point out three vulnerabilities. You may have A, B, or C. You may have a combination of A, B, or C. You may have all A, B, and C. But I think it's good to self-examine and consider this for yourself, um, so that you may want to address some of those vulnerabilities, such that you are at lower risk of ever falling prey to a narcissist again. So I'm just going to have a sip of water. One of those vulnerabilities, and this may sound odd, is just being too nice, naive. You don't realize what you're getting into sometimes. Somebody can treat you nicely and then sing you the blues about things in their life. And before you know it, you're doing caretaking or caregiving. You're managing, you're taking care of them. You're being their support. And these relationships have a way of being lopsided in that you wind up giving more and more and more, and you go down a rabbit hole, so to speak, where you wind up giving so much of yourself, you lose some of yourself. And before you know it, you're tied right in. And then if you do stop that giving, if you stop being nice, that's used strategically and manipulatively by the narcissist. Why are you being mean to me? Why aren't you being nice? Why are you being withholding? But you've always done this in the past. And before you know it, you think, oh, well, that's kind of true. And then you're made to feel guilty. And guilt is a remarkable motivator for keeping somebody hooked and giving of themselves. So the truth of the matter is, you may have come from a lovely family where everyone absolutely got along, was decent to one another, no yelling, no shouting, no screaming, and everyone was nice there. And now you're bringing that into the relationship, but you haven't learned when to set a boundary. You haven't learned when to say, I may be nice, but this is beyond what is appropriate for me to give right now. I feel for you. I feel for you, but that's something you should see a therapist for, not me. Okay, so it's weird to say it, but sometimes being nice and some naivety can inadvertently get you hooked into a narcissist. Another vulnerability, I'm going to label it a history of desensitization. What I mean by that is you may have grown up in a household where there is yelling, screaming between parents, maybe pushing or shoving, maybe use of alcohol in a way that was problematic for someone, you know, hitting, pushing, hurting, hospitalizations, police involvement, child protection agency involvement, and that may be your norm. It is for many people, but it is anything but normal. Growing up in that context, being exposed to those behaviors can desensitize one, so that, you know, let's say you're with this person, potential narcissist. You grew up experiencing behavior at this high threshold, and their threshold is here. It's below what you grew up with, but it's still there. There's still some name calling, yelling, shouting, screaming, whatever, maybe some throwing things, slamming of doors. But relative to what you experienced, it's not as bad. And so relative to what you experience, you say, well, it's not as bad. This is okay. And that seems reasonable. It isn't. It isn't. There really shouldn't be yelling, screaming, hollering, name calling, demeaning, those put downs, throwing of objects, whether or not it hits anyone. People shouldn't be throwing things, breaking things, slamming doors, breaking doors, punching walls, hitting walls. So if you grew up with that and what you're experiencing now is lesser but still evident, you may think that this is all acceptable. That's the desensitization. So do know that everything that I've described, that's abusive behavior. Some people don't realize that when they hear the term abusive behavior, many people think it's something worse than what they actually experienced when, oh my goodness, what they experienced was actually textbook. Okay. So if you see that behavior in a potential partner, it's not appropriate. It's just not appropriate. We have to be able to speak our minds reasonably, calmly, peacefully, and resolve conflict reasonably, calmly, peacefully. We may not always see eye to eye, yet we can come up with a solution that we can both live with. It doesn't have to be either or. So you know, people go to therapy to get some insight into themselves and put their growing up experiences into a context so that they can better understand it, and then come to realize, did my growing up experiences desensitize me to life currently, such that I don't recognize what's going on in a way that I should? Because whether or not you recognize abuse, it's still harmful. It still undermines self-esteem, dignity, well-being, parenting, stability in the home. From a kid's perspective, it can interfere with ability to have attention at school. They go to school, they're wondering what the heck's going on at home, or they haven't learned to settle down. Even at school, they're wondering and waiting for the other shoe to drop. So, you know, that's what people go to therapy for, to figure those things out. And if those things are at play or have been, how has it affected me? And if it has affected me, how do I manage that? Okay. So, you know, if you have that in your past, it makes you more vulnerable to someone who might exploit you. And the last of these vulnerabilities is if you are emotionally needy. You know, you may have come from a home where parents weren't well able to attend to your own emotional needs. Look, there's many reasons for that. It could be economics. Both parents are out working. They're not available to you as you're growing up as you need them. That's not, you know, we don't blame the parents. Those are outcomes of political economic structures. Or it could be that one or other or both parents had problems with drugs or alcohol, and their attention to those substances was greater than their attention to your needs. Or there could have been violence between them to any degree, greater or lesser, that also was distracting and made you scared in the growing up experience. And so with that, your emotional needs might not have been met. I see many persons, I describe them as having a hole in the tummy. You know, this, you know, I never feel, in a sense, full emotionally. I haven't felt validated. And to the narcissist, that's a kind of a, I'll use the word a great vulnerability to exploit, not great in a good way, but because they're able to shower you with affection and attention, and like, oh my goodness, that's manna from heaven. And as you come to like that, then increasingly they place demands on you and start doling out that affection and attention strategically to keep you hooked. Don't do my bidding, I may not be loving you as much, or right. So I think it's really important to take the time to examine what, if any, are your vulnerabilities. What, if anything, about you inadvertently got you hooked into this relationship? Because as bad as it is to have one narcissistic ex, it's worse to have more than one. Okay. So that's where I'm coming from with examining your own vulnerabilities. And also, you know, when we get into managing the narcissist, it's still good to know those vulnerabilities so that, you know, as you start setting boundaries with this individual, you'll be fighting against your need to be nice. Oh, if I set a boundary, they may not like me. It won't be nice. Or if I set a boundary, they're going to be angry at me, and I've never been validated by my ex, and I'm still hoping they'll validate me. So it really is important. It really is important in managing an ex to also understand your own vulnerabilities. I hope that makes sense. Dun dun dun. Okay, here we are. This is I guess more of what you're looking for. And this is understanding the narcissist. Um, I get flack from some of my colleagues because I post a lot about life with a narcissist, living with a narcissist, and they say not everyone's a narcissist, and that's true. Some people worry that this is an overused diagnosis these days and an overused term. Having said that, amongst my colleagues who work significantly with persons who have this as a problem or their families, um, we're all seeing an increase in narcissism in general, in the general population. So yeah, maybe the term is bandied about too much, but the flip side is there is a lot of it out there. Statistically, you know, 3 to 6% of the population may have this as a bona fide disorder. Depending on when you look at those statistics, some are saying it's rising. When we think of the narcissist, these are persons, and you know what? These things on the slide, this is taken right out of the Diagnostic and Statistics Manual, most current edition. I think it's edition 5 or 6. I'm losing track. This isn't me saying these things. This comes from the books. So I want to acknowledge that. But they show this pervasive pattern of grandiosity, need for admiration. I'm the best. I'm the smartest. Look, if regardless of your politics, if you want an example of this, it's Donald Trump in the United States. He always presents as being the best of anything and knowing absolutely everything about anything. And his ego always needs to be stroked. So I'm not diagnosing him. He classically presents this way. And these are the things about the narcissist, this remarkable need for being seen as better than you, better than somebody else, better than whoever, and to be, in a sense, acknowledged for that. The other feature of the narcissist is they don't have much empathy, if any. They are so preoccupied with themselves that it's hard to think about the other. And when I'm working with someone who may be a narcissist, here's a weird thing, just to diverge for a moment. As social workers, and you may not believe this, as social workers, we're not allowed to diagnose. I've been working in mental health for 41 years. I am not allowed to diagnose. Early in my career, I had training in diagnosis. I follow diagnoses. I am frequently suggesting to physicians what a potential diagnosis may be without providing it. So it's weird. I'm not permitted to say you are a narcissist, but I can speak in general terms with people when they call me. So I digress, just to say that, but I'm still going to give you this, in a sense, textbook definition of a narcissist. So this lack of empathy, it is difficult for the narcissist to put themselves in the shoes of someone else. They are too busy managing their own shoes, if you will. And if you want to reach that narcissist, you have to do it, in a sense, through their self-interest, the narcissistic interest, my interest in myself. So I don't say to a narcissist, what does your partner think about that? I might say, how does what they're thinking about affect you? So I always want to bring it back, in a sense, to how things impact on the narcissist, because they're the center of attention. It's remarkable. They are often preoccupied with thoughts of being successful, power, brilliance, perfection of something for themselves. They believe they're special. And, typically I'm only going to associate with those where I am special. And therefore you may find yourself being isolated by them because others aren't buying into their self-inflated importance, and they have no use for these people. These people aggravate them. Okay? These people can require, excessive, you're the best, you're the best, you're the best. And with that can come a sense of entitlement. It's, I deserve. Whenever you have somebody telling you they deserve, I don't deserve anything. I work for what I got. And if I'm lucky, I may achieve some of what I would like. Not all even. But they have this sense of entitlement, and they should have preferential treatment. I mean, there's a saying about, look at how a person treats the server in a restaurant. How do they treat that server? Because that will give you a clue as to how they may treat you and how they see the world. Is that server, you are here to serve me. I didn't like this. You're not bending enough. You didn't serve it fast enough. Versus, wow, you're rushed off your feet. I would like the ketchup. When you get it, that'll be fine. So you can see these attitudes in action, not just with yourself, but those around you. These are people who are exploitive. They'll happily take advantage of someone else if it meets their own needs. You are there to serve me. You are a tool in my toolbox to get what I want. And that may sound dehumanizing. It is. It is. That's how they view others. I don't see you as a separate individual with your own needs, wants, and issues. And, I see you as a tool for delivering to me what I want for me. The question is, how do I manage you as a tool to get that? Okay, so that exploitiveness. These are folks who can be envious of others, believe others are envious of them, and they can be quite arrogant. So these are some of the features of the narcissist. If you Google narcissism or narcissist, you can read about many subcategories. And there are more subcategories than Planters has peanuts, depending on where you go to on Dr. Google. But you will see some will present themselves as, in a sense, more dangerous, more egregious, more over the top. But then there are others, that are referred to as more covert, more hidden, more sneaky. But at the end of it, what's common is it's all about me, and you're a tool for me to get what I want out of life. I'm really not here for you. If I give to you, by the way, that's actually strategic. I'm giving you to hook you in so that I can get more. Okay. Narcissists, let me just see where I wanted to go. Okay, I'm going to stay here. Narcissists are good at luring people. Fishermen or fisher persons, fish or women. People who fish get this. You cast your rod, and at the end of it is a lure, this shiny metal device. There may be other dangly things off of it or wormy looking things, but you cast your lure and you bring it back to yourself. You reel it in, and you're hoping that this thing moves in the water such that it attracts the fish. And the fish comes and it bites the lure. You've got the fish, you grab it, you pull on it so that the hook grabs into the mouth of that fish, and then you reel them in, and there's dinner. So narcissists have their strategies for luring as well. Some of those strategies will be based on your vulnerability. Again, that's why it's helpful to understand the vulnerability. So if you're nice, they'll use your niceness as a weapon. If you are desensitized, they'll use your having been desensitized as a weapon. And the same with if you're needy. You know, we have the phrase love bombing by the narcissist. Love bombing is a means of luring. I will shower you with affection. I will buy you wonderful gifts. I will go so far out of my way. And they do this far and above what you would see other people do. And to the person who's experiencing this, it can feel wonderful. And imagine if you've never had that kind of attention before. It's like, oh my God, he does this or she does that. It's an equal gender opportunity. The person does this or that for me. And it's intoxicating. That's the lure. And now that I have you hooked, I may do less and less and less, and I'm going to put expectations on you. Oh, would you mind doing such and so forth? Oh, you've done so much for me. How could I not do for you? Now, would you mind doing this and that? Oh, you've done so much for me. How can I not do for you? So this love bombing is this strategy to engulf you, make you feel like, wonderful, but now I get to exploit that. Okay. And by withholding it, it's like, oh, I missed that. Where's, this person, they have such a wonderful side. I just want to get back that side of this person. Whenever I hear somebody tell me about this person's nice side versus this other side, that's just a red flag. It's a red flag. This person may be a narcissist. Okay. If we have two sides and those sides don't match, where one is so wonderful and one is not, you have to appreciate they are opposite sides of the same coin. I'll say that one again. They're opposite sides of the same coin. You are not going to get one side without the other. It's a package deal. And so many people who come to me, they're wanting to know how to just bring out the one side. And you can't unless you only want to be lured, or you only want to give in, or you only want to meet this person's needs without concerning yourself about your own. Because that's what it's about. That's what that behavior is about as a lure. It isn't about you and valuing you for your sake. Okay? So it's so important to truly understand this person, this behavior, so that we can see it with clearer eyes. The degree to which we see it with clearer eyes, we can put boundaries in place and some of the other strategies I'm going to get to manage this. So the narcissist. And by the way, if you've been desensitized to abuse, they can use abuse as well as a means to manipulate, control, and manage you. So not all narcissists use, lovey-dovey and love bombing. Some will use yelling, screaming, shouting, and why are you not doing this? I got to be careful. I don't want to trigger anyone by enacting the part too much. So excuse me if I did trigger you, because I really don't want to. But you have to appreciate that some narcissists will use violence to control and manage you, also in the pursuit of acting on their own behalf and their own needs. Okay? Whew, that's a lot. That's a lot to take in. Give me a second. All right, where are we here? You know, your feelings may give you clues as to who is a narcissist. If you're made to feel special, like they're the only one who finally gets you, that can be a red flag. Why are they so... And it's not to say everyone who does that is a narcissist. So we do have to discriminate. And I don't want you to be afraid of everyone who makes you feel special. But I want you to say, check mark, I'm going to have to watch that. And I'm going to have to look for other behaviors as well. And if there's too many check marks, this may be a problem. So, you know, if you're made to feel special, like you're the only one who gets them, you're always feeling flattered for your looks or accomplishments. But, you know, where that flattery is more than one would normally expect. Again, there can be an over the top or a too much quality to it, even if it's delivered really sincerely. Narcissists are really, really good at luring. They're really good at fishing. I got to be careful how I say that. I don't want to imply you're a fish. So it's a metaphor just to understand the view of the person in the eyes of the narcissist and how they are approaching them. Okay. Alternately, you can be made to feel like you can't measure up at some point in this relationship. You're not worthy of them, or you have no value. This is emotional, psychological manipulation of you. You're no good without me. You wouldn't be able to do this if I hadn't done that for you. I open doors for you. You know, I support you. Narcissist, this is a story I hear quite commonly, that the one living with the narcissist winds up supporting them, or if not supporting them financially, then they wind up giving up their work, their job, their life to be the homemaker, and the narcissist leads the life they want to lead, whether it's them being at home or you being at home, but they've manipulated the situation that they're, in a sense, doing whatever the heck they want, and typically at your expense. Okay? So if you feel like you can't measure up, you're not worthy, you don't have value, that's another red flag to take a look at. And you know, another one in terms of your feelings, do you feel isolated? You know, coming into this relationship, you may have had many friends, or some friends, doesn't have to be many. You may have had friends, and you may have had regular contact with your family, whatever that regular contact is. Excuse me, daily, weekly, monthly, whatever is, in a sense, regular for you. But over the passage of time, you may find that you've been, in a sense, cleaved, cut off from those relationships. Oh, I don't like it when you go out with so-and-so, you know, you always go drinking, or, you know, that, is it so-and-so, or they're worried about other persons meeting you at a bar, or is that jealousy, or, right, is it possessiveness? And so as the narcissist talks about these things, you find yourself, in a sense, guilty. You find yourself, oh, I don't want to accept my partner. And they have a way of framing things where you look like the bad person for whatever it is you're doing. And you don't want to look like the bad person. So you slowly dial back on those connections, on those relationships. And before you know it, you're living in a box. And that box is you and the narcissist. Even with respect to children, they, like, if you're bringing in children from another relationship, they may have a hard time with your kids because it interferes with them and what they want. Or even with their own kids, hey, child should go to bed, child should be punished, child shouldn't be in the way, because really what that narcissist is saying is the narcissist, feels thwarted for the attention going to the child. Yikes. Okay? So the sense of isolation can even cleave a parent from their own children. We're just talking degrees of severity with that. So if you examine your feelings, do you feel special in a way that is never before and disproportionate to anyone else? Are you always being flattered? Do you feel like you can't measure up? You aren't worthy. You're losing value. Do you feel isolated? These aren't healthy feelings, and these are feelings that typically don't occur in a healthy relationship. Okay? So this is also why self-examination can be helpful in terms of figuring out what's going on here, how did this come about, and to what degree might this be a reflection on the luring and entrapment by the other person. Okay? Sip of water. What does a narcissist want? Well, when things are going in their favor, they want to feel smarter, stronger, better. They want to have more than people in their own orbit, in a sense. It's not necessarily the most in the world, but amongst those who I associate with, know, grow up with, it's about them, and they want to feel better than any of those folks. That's part of being narcissist. You can sometimes recognize these people that by one-upsmanship. I've got this. Well, I've got that. Oh, okay. I did this. Well, I did that. It's like, oh my God, fine. You're better, stronger, know more than I do at everything, right? So that's just another red flag. So if you come across that, to know that. Now, one of the distinguishing features, again, of the narcissist is, what do they do? What happens if they don't get their way? What happens if they don't feel like they're the cock of the walk, like they're the one with all the feathers, like the peacock? What do they do with that? Narcissists don't like feeling thwarted. Okay? If somebody comes up to me and says, we're catching up, hey, yeah, I picked up a used car, I like it, it's good. And they say, oh yeah, I just got a new car. I don't feel thwarted. I don't feel slighted. I will say to that person, you got a new car. Holy mackerel, what'd you get? How do you like it? Oh, that's awesome. I don't take it personally. It's not an affront to me that someone has something newer, better, stronger, bigger, more expensive, etc., than myself. To the narcissist, that's a challenge. If you notice, I'm folding my arms. I'm annoyed. I'm pissed off. I don't like you. You did better than me. Yeah, I don't know how to beat you. Okay? The narcissist has a difficulty wrapping their head around that. The narcissist, when thwarted, they don't just want to have more. They don't just want to get even. Getting even isn't enough. Okay? The narcissist, to the degree to which you thwart me, pardon my language, I want to screw you over. I want to annihilate you. I want to, you don't exist to me. And if you throw in my face your car's newer, better, stronger, etc., I'm going to feel I'm not going to like the car that I picked up used. I don't want it anymore. It's a piece of crap. It's not good enough. And you may find me trading that used car in for something bigger, newer, whether or not I can even afford it, because then I'm bigger, better than that. You know, I use a car as an example. It could be an article of clothing. It could be a different kind of possession. But I got to do better than the degree to which I demonstrate this narcissistic personality. And one of the mistakes people make regularly dealing with narcissists when they're negotiating with them, they think the narcissist would settle for a win-win. Hey, you know, you get some, I get some. We don't each get everything that we want, but overall, it's a win-win. The narcissist doesn't want a win-win. The narcissist actually doesn't even want to win-lose. The narcissist, I'm going to go back to this with my foul language, wants to screw you over. And here's the weird thing. If in screwing you over, I lose something, I get a little screwed over myself, that's okay as long as you're screwed over more. Wow. Let that resonate for a moment. Let that resonate when your lawyer is negotiating on your behalf. Let that resonate if you're going to mediation or collaborative family law, where the persons facilitating those processes are hoping to help you reach a win-win. If it's with a narcissist, it ain't going to happen like that. They don't want a win-win. They want a you die, I live. If I lose an arm, but I live, that's okay. Yikes. So that's a lot to take in. That was actually a really important point that needs to land with people, that win-win is off the table. It's annihilate, and I'll take what's left over after I've annihilated you. Okay? At least in the more extreme situations that I'm helping people with. So how do you manage? How do you manage with the narcissist? It starts by you managing yourself, quite frankly. You have to find your calm. You have to use it to manage your fear, your anger, your worries. I have said to pretty much every person who sits in front of me to consider meditation and mindfulness. Some people accept that and go on to practice these strategies. Some don't. Some say, oh, I've tried that. It doesn't work for me. I said, well, what do you mean that you've tried that? Well, I tried sitting and cross-legged or listening to this app, and, you know, I did it once and my mind still wandered. If I were to say to you, you know, learn to drive the car. You have to learn to drive the car. You will not drive a car the first time you sit behind a wheel. You won't even know how hard to push the gas or how hard to depress the brake or how you know, quickly to turn the wheel the first time you sit behind a car. It's going to be weird. It's going to be awkward. We almost all drive a little jerky at start. So if you're going to learn meditation and mindfulness, these are skills that develop over months and years, not days and weeks. Again, important to understand. Yet those who develop these skills, tend to do better in the long run. my experience anyways. Meditation is the act of learning to recognize one's feeling state and wandering mind, and to bring it back to the present in a calm state. We do that in a controlled environment. So we do that seated on our chair. Usually we're listening to an app that's guiding us through the process. And as we're practicing what we hear through the app, our mind wanders. All of our mind wanders. Even if you've meditated for years, our mind wanders. But what you're doing is getting better at recognizing when your mind has wandered, when your emotional state has left or changed. And as you recognize that quicker, you bring yourself back. I lower my shoulders. I take that deep diaphragmatic breath. And as I do that, I'm back to the here and now, and I'm listening to what's going on. I haven't been distracted. So we meditate to learn that skill. We meditate in a controlled environment to learn to catch our wandering mind and to read our emotional state and bring it to a state of calm. Meditation. Mindfulness is the practice of using what we learn in meditation in real life. So now I'm in a conversation with this person, and they said something that aggravated me. And because I've practiced meditation, I'm more mindful of my emotional, mental, physical state at any particular time. They've said something that aggravates me. As my shoulders went up and I'm about to get, see my lips, they're pursed, and I may answer inappropriately from a place of anger. I go, oh, I just recognize what I'm doing. I just recognize what I'm being mindful. And now in life, I'm able to dial it back, catch my breath, lower my shoulders, breathe, see that I've been triggered, and weigh my words, weigh my options. What do I want to do with respect to what I've just experienced? And choose my response. Okay? It is so important to have these skills. However you acquire them, it's important to have, because without them, you will continually be triggered. If you are continually triggered, you are at risk of acting in a way that's contrary to your own interest. Okay? So give me a sec. Where are we? Managing the narcissist. It starts with you. Now I'm going to reframe the narcissist, and I'm going to talk about a lovely colleague of mine. Some of you are familiar with his name. Some of you are familiar with his work. I quite like this fellow. His name is Bill Eddy, E-D-D-Y. Bill lives and works in California predominantly. He does workshops throughout the US and Canada. Bill is a family law lawyer. Bill was formerly a social worker, like myself. What we have in common is that over the course of our careers, we've worked with a good many people, at least one of whom would have been identified as a narcissist or having a personality disorder. It could have been of another type, usually borderline personality disorder. But Bill and I have that similarity in terms of working with those kinds of persons or persons living or separating from those persons. Bill had long since recognized that as social workers, and certainly not as family law lawyers, we're not allowed to diagnose. So he can't say this or that person has a narcissistic personality disorder. So he came up with his own diagnosis. It was a brilliant move on his part. The concept he came up with, he labeled the high conflict personality or high conflict personality disorder, HCP. And because this is a made up disorder, if you will, he can label anyone as having a high conflict personality and not get into trouble for diagnosing without a license. All right. So, according to Bill Eddy, there are 4 features of the high conflict personality. Um, One of them, and I'm looking at my text here and I've written it down a little wrong. I apologize for that, but we'll still get through this. One of those features of the high conflict personality is extreme emotions. Um, we all can have big feelings from time to time, but the person with a high conflict personality, like they don't just feel things from here to here, they feel them from there to there. Emotions on steroids. When I'm happy, I'm very happy. When I'm unhappy, look out, I'm loaded for bear. So these extreme emotions that can overtake the person. So that's one feature of the high conflict personality. When persons have extreme emotions, they're at risk for what he next refers to as unmanaged behavior. Unmanaged behavior. And so imagine you have these big feelings, and the result of these big feelings is you lash out. You may hit somebody, you may yell, you may scream, you may demean, you may throw something. These unmanaged behaviors, they are big. Someone had asked Bill, "What's your definition of an unmanaged behavior?" And he said, "Look, if 90% of the people would never engage in such behavior, then it's unmanaged." So that's a great way, a quick and dirty way, if you will, for assessing an unmanaged behavior. Jumping on the hood of your car, standing in front of your car to stop you, the yelling and the screaming, slamming of doors, withholding money, all of these are unmanaged behavior. 90% of the population wouldn't do such things. So that is another feature of the high conflict personality. A third feature is, we refer to it as binary thinking, dualistic thinking, all or none thinking. We split the world in two. It's either all of this or all of that. And it's not uncommon for these persons to split other people in two. You're either all good or you're all bad. And what's really interesting with this all or none thinking, it can flip on a dime. Do the bidding of the narcissist, do what they like. All of a sudden, you're the best thing since sliced bread. They love you. You're fantastic. But the moment you say, "Oh, but I can't do that," what? I knew you weren't going to do things. I knew you were bad. I knew you. Right? This all or none thinking where it can flip on a dime, and the dime it flips on often has to do with them being thwarted. Just saying. The fourth feature of the high conflict personality, give me a second. Okay. The fourth feature is they don't take responsibility for their contribution to issues. It's never their fault. They're always blaming others. And in Bill Eddy jargon, he says they're looking for their target of blame. And man, they can be fierce. And if they're more covert or more, subdued about it, they can just talk their way. Well, we wouldn't be in this situation if you didn't do this and that. And, if not for your parent butting in where they didn't need to butt in. And right. They can even present it calmly. Nothing, it doesn't all have to be in your face, but these features are there. This blaming of others. It's always someone else's fault. This is a really good way of framing or reframing the narcissist as the high conflict personality. Bill is keen to point out that you can actually have a personality disorder and not be a high conflict personality. However, if you have a high conflict personality, odds are, I'm just checking my watch, odds are you do have a personality disorder. And so, what kind of personality disorder? That takes a bit more sussing out, asking of questions to get under that. It can make a bit of a difference because depending on the personality disorder, there are different triggers for that person. All right. So, how do you manage? And, as we talk about managing, I want you to remember the goal of the narcissists who really give you trouble, who are marching things to court, who are often advocating for themselves at court, who are sending you affidavits that are miles long, who are sending you these text messages where everyone in the horse you rode in on is awful and contributing to all the problems and how wonderful they are. And at the end of the day, man, you are dead to them and they want you dead. Okay, so how do you manage? Um, I'm going to throw this stuff out there. Um, it's not to say it's easy. It's not easy. And before I throw this stuff out there, I want to add something that slipped my mind, but I want to say it. Most people who come to see me, they may recognize and identify their ex as a narcissist, yet they're managing their ex as if they're a normal person. They're managing their ex as if they're a normal person. So what do you do with a normal person? I try to talk sense into you. I try to break through. And so I'll keep trying. I'll say, yeah, but. And I keep trying to break through to you. And the more I try to break through to you, the more the narcissist escalates and throws stuff back at me. I try to reach you through reason, explanations. I try to seek a win-win. Well, look, if you were to do this for me, I do that for you. It makes sense. So these are all strategies we do with normal people. And quite frankly, if you were to do those strategies with me, they're going to work. And they say, well, if you do that, I get this. Okay. You know what? Sounds reasonable. I can live with that. Say that to a narcissist. Oh, you win something? Oh, then I don't want it. They may not say that, but that's where their thinking goes. And where the thinking goes, behavior follows. Where thinking goes, behavior follows. Where thinking goes, behavior follows. I had to repeat that. So look, if you're going to manage with a narcissist, you have to manage your own feelings. Remember, meditation, mindfulness. You have to manage those triggers such that you are no longer so engaged. They go wham, and you go, wow, I felt that, and I was initially triggered. But I took a deep breath, and kind of like Teflon, it hit, but it fell flat, disengaged. It doesn't mean that what they are saying isn't scary. It doesn't mean it isn't intimidating. It doesn't mean that they aren't even dangerous, because they may be. But you have to at least appear disengaged. If it hits you, if you show that it's left its mark, they own you. And they go, gotcha. I'll do it again. Don't offer explanations. You're going to be put on the defensive each and every time. Don't defend. You got nothing to defend. Look, this is what I'm looking for. Well, why do you want it? Because I do. And they will push. They will push. They will push. And the reason they're pushing is they're trying to understand why you want what you want. And as soon as they understand why you want what you want, they're going to invalidate it. They're not looking to understand why you want what you want to be empathetic. They're looking at it so that they can undermine you. Okay? Don't offer explanations. If they say, well, I'm not doing it until you explain, you say, well, then you won't do it. I'm no longer going to be held hostage. Period. You want to be clear in your expectations. And quite frankly, because narcissists are not normal, get away from you acting as if they are. You need to understand who they are and what will work for you. And so what does that mean? If you can make your expectation appear as their idea, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm going to assume that you're not looking for the moon. You're looking for what's reasonable and fair in the circumstance. You're not looking to screw over the person, hopefully. You're looking for a resolution that is reasonable to you as well. So if you can make an idea appear as theirs and they own it, you can just quietly go, wow, that worked. I'm glad we're there. Let's say you want your kid to go to some activity. I think our kid should go to this activity. Why? Well, it's going to make them a better person. It's going to, oh, they're a better person. I'll make them a bit, right? You offer the explanation, doesn't work. But if you say, what do you think about our kid going to this activity? Do you think they could ever get anything out of it? Look, the narcissist may say no, or the narcissist may say, well, if they go, I think they should do it this way, and they should go here, and they should go there. And you look, wow, okay, hadn't thought about that. That sounds good. All right, if you want to. You're playing to their narcissism. Are you kidding me? Some folks who I've worked with have turned to me and said, Gary, you're teaching people to be manipulative. And I answer, yes. Yes, I am. But the goal, the rationale, the reasoning is very different. I'm not teaching people to be manipulative for their self-aggrandizement, for their personal gain. I'm seeking to help them manage a situation so that they don't get screwed over or their kids don't get screwed over. Very different. Very different. Other thing to think about when working with a narcissist is don't be out to excuse me. Don't be out to win, because as soon as things are put into a win-win or a win-lose context, you've already lost. Just seek to neutralize. What do I mean by neutralize? I want this, I want, well, how do you see that working? I don't know if that's going to work. I just want to take the steam out of things. As you take the steam out of things, the narcissist actually de-escalates and can come into a better frame of mind for negotiating. That's so important. You want to calm the mind of the narcissist, and that's why we want to neutralize things as best we can. If you're going to communicate, there should be a permanent record, of that communication. A lot of people these days use Our Family Wizard. Not all parents agree to it. Where it's agreed to, you will. Otherwise, you'll use text or email. And the importance of that is so that you have a permanent record of what has been communicated. I'm going to get into how to manage oneself with communications in a bit. But it's important to have that so that you have something to fall back on. Plan for being set up and being sabotaged. You have to expect it. You just remember their goal: to annihilate you, to screw you over, to make your life more difficult, whichever of those phrases you prefer. And so, they're going to be late to the exchange. They're going to be late with child support or spousal payments. They're going to inadvertently take you off of the dental plan, or, just know that these things may occur and have a contingency plan in place. It's not if, but when. Flying monkeys. I don't know who came up with those terms. It wasn't Bill Eddy, to my knowledge. And I don't know who to attribute it to. But it's a takeoff from The Wizard of Oz, that old film, where when the witch needed somebody to do her bidding and attack the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and Cowardly Lion, and Dorothy, she sent her flying monkeys. And in dealing with a narcissist, this is a metaphor for when the narcissist sends your mother out to get you, or your sibling, or their sibling, or friend, neighbor, etc. They work through third parties to undermine your credibility, to do their bidding. Okay, they're going to be there, and you manage the flying monkeys the same way you manage the narcissist. You actually don't fight with the flying monkey. You just go, thank you, okay, I hear you, and you don't offer explanations. You don't get engaged. And the reason is the flying monkeys are currently taken in by the narcissist. They've heard horror stories about you. Well, they have been groomed and lured, and they're still in that groomed and lured stage. So anything that you say, the narcissist will have already said, I'll bet my ex will tell you this when you tell them that. They've been prepped. And so when you say, well, my ex is a this, they're going to say, yeah, he said you'd say that, or she said you'd say that. So don't go there. Use the same strategies. Be that Teflon, that nonstick coating. I'm just going to remind people who or tell people who came in late to the workshop, this is free. If you want to pay, I would be grateful. You know, this is what I do for a living. I value the workshop at between $100 and $150 an hour, or not an hour, but for the workshop. But having said that, if you can't pay, don't. Then this is free to you. If you want to pay a token amount, $1, $5, $20, $30, whatever, then do so. I would be most appreciative. But you don't have to. This is at your discretion. If you are going to pay, please do so by e-transfer to my email address, gary@yoursocialworker.com. Folks, I cannot provide receipts. Quite frankly, it's too much work. And if I have a fault, it's being work averse. I work a lot. And so I don't want additional paperwork. So I won't be providing receipts. If that reflects on the amount that you want to pay, no issue whatsoever. And do also know that, you know, in terms of not providing a receipt, this isn't counseling, so I could never provide a receipt that would be used for counseling anyways. This is a workshop. I am not doing therapy with anyone here tonight. I'm providing information and education that some people may find of value to use at their discretion. Okay, returning. Those who follow me on Facebook see that I post several times a day. I've been doing this for years. So, you know, through my Facebook page, I don't know, there's 5,000 to 8,000 posts dealing with, you know, all facts of life, separation, divorce, child behavior, developmental issue in kids, relationships, drugs, alcohol, political issues as they affect family, parenting, relationships. So I write a lot. I write a ton, and I put that out there into the universe for free for people to use at their discretion. Hopefully it is of value. Bill, however, as I write all these posts, he's busy writing books, and so he makes money on his books. I have written 2 books. They're both flops. Don't even bother looking for them. But having said that, Bill's books are wonderful. And the first book I'm going to introduce you to is Biff by Bill Eddy. Biff stands for Brief, Informative, Friendly, and Firm. This is a how-to guide. The green color edition, it's the latest edition, and it's written for separated parents where one is identified as a narcissist, Narcissistic Ex. This is not a theory book. This is a how-to book. This book will help you develop the skills to set limits, boundaries, and expectations with your ex, to help keep you from going down their rabbit holes, from being sucked in. So when you get this diatribe, and the horse you rode into, and you're never there when I come to pick up the kids, and you're a lousy parent, and even your own parent were lousy, and blah, 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 blah. Biff will teach you how to respond to that. I've received your email. You raised a number of interesting points. However, I'm not sure if you're coming Friday at 5. If I haven't heard from you tonight, Thursday, by 6 o'clock, I'm going to assume that you're not, and I will have made other plans. Bye-bye. Brief, informative, friendly, firm. It's unequivocal. There's boundary setting. There's limits. There's expectations. And not once does this person in the reply message defend themselves or attack the other person. That is a learned skill. The people who see me, they've been using all the normal strategies for normal persons. You have to learn a new set of skills. You don't learn the new set of skills, you're not going to manage with your ex. And as you learn these skills, you're going to be using some of them on a current partner, on a parent, on a child. These are effective communication skills for setting limits, boundaries, and expectations with anyone, and without getting inducted into nonsense. This next book of Bill's is Learning How to Negotiate with a Narcissist. Most mediators are trained in something called interest-based negotiation. In interest-based negotiation, we want the parties, the parents, to learn, why do you want what you want? The thinking is, if I understand your why, maybe I can be empathetic and accommodate that and come up with a plan so that your needs get met while my needs get met. Reasonable, interest-based negotiation. That doesn't work well with narcissists. So Bill came up with another strategy, another approach to helping persons dealing with a narcissist negotiate. And so whether you're in mediation or whether, like every parent must do, there's always something to negotiate, whether it's a change in the parenting plan, whether it's who's going to pay for this particular bill, whether it's who's taking the child to the dentist. So Bill, rather than asking why questions, simply says, what's your proposal? What are you after? And Bill says there's 4 responses to a proposal. He goes over them. And one of them is to always ask what, where, when, and how questions, not why. How do you see that working? When do you see it as occurring? Who will play what role in facilitating your proposal? What is your role in that? When should it start? When should it end? So you're helping the person who made the proposal drill down on it. The degree to which they do, there's more clarity. And if you like a proposal, Bill says, go ahead, agree to it. But here's what I'm going to tell you. Don't look happy about it. Remember, their number one goal is your annihilation. If you look happy about their proposal, they're going to come back with, wait a minute, I want to make a change. Or wait a minute, no, I withdraw that because you looked happy. It doesn't meet with their number one priority, which is to screw you over. So you can like a proposal, you can agree to a proposal. I tell people, practice accepting it begrudgingly. Fine. I'll make it work. Fine. Okay, fine, we'll do that. And when you leave, be happy. You can be happy. But I don't suggest showing that to the ex. The other strategy that Bill talks about is using EAR statements. EAR stands for empathy, attention, and respect. Bill likes using acronyms. And so when I do therapy with people, I tell them that I may cut them off, and there's certain occasions when I cut people off. And one of the occasions is when I deliver some feedback that speaks to a person's contribution to their own distress. Most people, if I say, you know, when you do this, here it isn't working for you, and here's why, most people say, oh my goodness, thank you, I didn't realize that. The narcissist will say, I don't do that, it's not me, I'm going to get that barrage too. I come to an EAR statement. Empathy, attention, and respect. Empathy. I hear that my feedback really didn't land well with you, and it's upset you. I want you to know I'm paying attention to what you have to say. What you have to say is important to me. I respect that on this matter, you have a very different point of view. When I use that EAR statement, the person calms down. It's amazing. Notice I never said, I'm wrong, you're right, or vice versa. I never argued with the person. I just used an EAR statement. And when I've done that, a switch flicks in my mind. And I say, this person may be a narcissist, may be a high conflict personality. I am now going to use more strategies from Biff. And so what's your proposal? I'm going to use thinking from there to inform how I'm going to work with you on a go forward basis. Interesting. So Bill has written a lot of books. I'm recommending these three in particular. For me, it's the trifecta. Biff, so what's your proposal? Calming upset people with ear. Okay. So, you know, if you thought you were coming here tonight and I'm going to give you all the answers in an hour and a half and you're going to walk out of here and be the best person in managing your ex, I apologize, because that's just not the case. What I'm doing is pointing you to a better understanding of what you're dealing with. Well, hopefully a better understanding of what you're dealing with, how you have to manage yourself, and the skills that you actually have to develop over the next weeks to months to better manage this person. The degree to which you invest yourself in these skills. What's that saying? Give a person a fish, they eat for a day. Teach a person to fish, they can feed themselves for life. So those persons who truly read these books, truly practice meditation and mindfulness, at the end of the day, they manage their narcissistic ex at a higher level of efficiency and skill than those who don't. And as you manage at that higher level, it doesn't change the ex, but it makes your life so much more bearable. You are less overwhelmed. This stuff comes in, you go, oh, more of this stuff. Yeah, here's my Biff statement back. You know, and their stuff doesn't land the same. And when it doesn't land the same, you're more efficient. You are more present for your kids. Okay? And that's where we're going next, working for your kids, managing the kids. Many of the referrals I receive are not for the parent to manage the ex. They're for the kid whose behavior may be affected by the narcissistic co-parent. And so, you know, parents want these kids in therapy. That often backfires. Under other circumstances, therapy is good for kids. Your kid is neurotypical. They need to learn how to manage their differences and any associated feelings. Therapy for your kid is good. Your kid may suffer some depression, some anxiety. Therapy for your kid can be good. When you're talking about the impact of a narcissistic co-parent on your kid, therapy can be a disaster. The reason for that is you are going to fight over everything. Now you're going to fight over therapy for your kids. You're going to fight over whether or not they go. You're going to fight over who they see. You're going to fight over who pays. You're going to fight over who has access to any information from the therapist. Then your child, before they go to therapy, they're going to be coached in all likelihood, whether directly or indirectly, by the narcissistic co-parent. I wonder what you're going to tell your therapist today. Oh, remember when other parent did this, this, and this? And you get these lovely reminders to everything from, make sure you tell your therapist that your other parent is a this or that. So you send the kid to therapy to help them deal with this parent, yet the structure means they are more impacted upon by the behavior of that parent. Then they go to therapy, they return from the therapy, and they're interrogated. What'd you tell the therapist? What did the therapist say? What did you say? And again, some narcissistic parents can do that skillfully, and some are like a bull in a china shop. What did you tell them? Did you tell them? Why didn't you tell them? They have to know. Do you realize how bad it's going to be for us because you didn't? Or, oh, you didn't tell them. Oh. Now the kid feels guilty. So there's many ways to manipulate a child. So rather than the child going for therapy, we want you, the parent coping with a narcissistic ex, we want you to get the help. And if your kid's ever going to go to therapy, let them go as an adult. There are worse things than your child not going to therapy, and that is your child going to therapy and being subject to more emotional abuse. Okay, so I have to say that. So what do? You work on these things yourself. As you work on these things yourself, you're going to role model greater confidence. You're going to role model boundary setting. You're going to role model brief, informative, friendly, and firm. So if your kid comes to you as an emissary of the narcissistic ex, they're coming to you, other parent says you're a this and you're a that. And now they're putting you on the defensive on behalf of their other parent. You're going to be able to go, oh, sweetheart, yes, other parent has a lot to say about me and has many strong feelings about it. But you know what? Supper's ready. Let's go eat. Brief, informative, friendly, firm. Redirect. You're going to listen. You're going to support. You're going to redirect. You haven't badmouthed the ex. You've just identified, yeah, he's got or she's got a lot of big feelings. The other parent has a lot of big feelings. And, if anything, sweetheart, I'm sorry that you have to hear so many things about us. And just know that that's not something that I want to do to you too. That's why I've made a nice supper. Come, let's go eat. And so we identify the process to some degree without bad mouthing. Say, I don't do these things. Here's what we're going to do. This child, like the flying monkeys, they've been told, your other parent, when you tell them this, they're going to deny it. They're going to get angry. They're going to tell you bad things about me. They're not, those things are not true. Now imagine if you actually do those things, you've cemented in the kid's mind that the other parent knows everything and everything about you that's critical and negative. However, if you don't lose your cool because you've been practicing meditation and mindfulness, you're not triggered, you manage those triggers, and you come back with that listening, supporting, and redirecting, your behavior is so contrary to what they expected, and it's so reasonable. And now this child has to reconcile the cognitive dissonance, the difference between what they're told about you and what they experience about you. And we hope that in the end, experience weighs more. Okay? So this is how you teach by role model. This is how you exude calm under pressure. This is how you teach not to get inducted to nonsense because you're practicing it. Kid comes home, when they enter the house, some of these kids are loaded for bear. It's not their intention. After a day or two, they settle down, they're back into the routine. You can actually reorient or try reorienting your child before they enter into the house. You're at the threshold. And at the threshold, you can literally look to your child and say, just before we go in, where are we? And the kid is going to look at you like you're crazy because it's an odd question. We all know where we are. They're going to look and go, home? Like they know the answer. They're going to give the answer, but because it feels like a trick question, they're going to question, home? And you go, yeah, we're home. Like with a nice disposition, not an angry disposition, a nice disposition. And you go, yeah, home. How do we treat people here? Again, is this a trick question? And they're going to go, nicely? And go, yeah, nicely. Okay, so we're home and we treat people nicely here. Come, let's go get ready for dinner. And they walk in the house and they kind of are distracted from they're loaded for bear, ready to attack you on the other parent's behalf. And, 10 minutes into the home, I forgot, I got to attack that parent. And perhaps they do. And then you're going to go, sweetheart, where are we again? Home. I said, yeah. Is this what we do in our home? Oh yeah. No. So I'm just trying to help you manage your kids a bit more effectively. And remember, you're Teflon. If the kid says something mean, disparaging about you that comes from your ex, or it appears to come even from themselves, I just want you to have compassion for your child. Manage your own big feelings. Oh my God, my kid doesn't like me. This is going down the tip. Like, you have to manage your anxiety in that situation. Okay? So we're technically out of time. I'll go a minute or two over. These are the strategies. We've gone through understanding your own vulnerabilities. It really is important. If you're the parent who is always nice, you may also have trouble setting boundaries with your kids if it upsets them. And boundaries isn't a negative. It just means I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And a boundary is, no, you can do it after dinner. You can do it tomorrow. You can do it when you've cleaned your room. There are expectations. And the child has to learn that you can manage their pushback and still hold them to the expectation. That's not you not being nice. That is being a nice, good parent. Okay? If you've grown up in a situation where, again, you're desensitized to abuse, you have to be careful that you don't get larger than what is necessary in the circumstance. And part of that is by practicing getting smaller. I'm just, yeah, getting smaller. Oh, and talking quieter. Oh, sweetheart. Gee whiz. Those are pretty big feelings you're having. Do you want to talk about them? How are we going to get this done? What do you think I'm going to say? Okay, so you can practice getting smaller. If you never felt valued, it is a trap thinking you got to feel valued by your children. You value them, they don't have to value you. They will if you have all these other things in place. But they're not there to feed you and your needs. You're there to feed theirs. So sometimes it can be helpful for the parent to go to counseling, not just for these strategies dealing with a narcissistic ex, but to examine your own vulnerabilities so that they don't add to the issues that you're grappling with. Again, you want to pay me, you'll pay me. You don't want to pay me. I'm happy to do this. I'm happy for people to get this. There is no cost unless you want to voluntarily pay to my email address, gary@yoursocialworker.com. And here we are. I'm back. I hope you've gotten something out of this. Again, this is not the be-all, end-all. This is not tailored to everybody's needs. I had to kind of do a shotgun, a bit of approach. I'm putting what I thought was some of the more important information in front of people. If you need something that's tailored to your needs specifically, speak with someone who has expertise, knowledge, and training in dealing with a narcissistic ex. It is not your everyday counselor. Most counselors do not have this capacity. It requires additional training. A generalist it's like you don't go to your GP when you need a cardiologist. I needed a cardiologist 1.5 years ago. Those that know me and have been following me know that I had a quadruple bypass 1 year ago, June. I had a great outcome because I did everything I was told to do. That's me personally. Not everyone will have a great outcome whether or not you do everything you should. So I apologize. I shouldn't give that impression. But you go to a specialist. It doesn't have to be me. I don't care. I'm busy enough. I work 2.5, 3 days a week. I'm semi-retired. You're welcome to see me. But if you're going to go see someone, a good strategy for finding someone is look for folks who do custody and access assessments and ask them, do you coach people how to work with a narcissistic ex? If you go to local pages, I'll explain that in a minute, for those who practice collaborative family law. So if you Google collaborative family law and your city or state or province, you will likely find some websites that lists people who practice collaborative family laws. And on that list will be family law lawyers, will be mental health professionals or family professionals, they're sometimes called, or family specialists, and will also be financial professionals. Look at the family specialists, because these are people who have been trained specifically in working with separated parents. That's already a subspecialty. And then of those, some will have had additional training in how to coach you in working with the narcissistic ex. So you go to that webpage, look for the family professionals, drill down, and ask, do you have any training and knowledge working with a narcissistic ex? Have you ever had any training from Bill Eddy? Do you know the guy? Do you know what he does? Do you know Gary Derenfeld? Have you ever heard of him or what he does? And, this is how you're going to find someone better suited. If you go to a therapist who simply says, how do you feel about that? That's good for many other kinds of problems. It is not good in these situations. In these situations, it's about your skill development. So I'm going to bring us to a close with that. I'm Gary Derenfeld. I'm a social worker. My website, www.yoursocialworker.com. I'm transparent. If you click on the link that says services, you'll see a listing of services. One of them is working with a narcissist, coaching for working with a narcissistic ex. If you click on any of my services, though, you're going to read about my approach, which is different than my colleagues. You're going to see my sliding fee scale. I actually have a sliding fee scale to try and accommodate people's different incomes. And you're going to read about my policies, one of which is I don't go to court anymore. So I'm not there as an advocate to help fight for anyone. I'm here as a counselor, therapist, and coach. Hopefully this evening has been helpful to you. If you want to express that appreciation in a comment, that's lovely. If you want to do it monetarily, that's lovely. Remember, I'm not going to give receipts. And folks, thank you. Thank you for listening. Those who have been listening, I get it. You're in a lousy situation. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to me this evening. Okay? You're in a lousy situation. Do know I feel for you. And do know that I hope this workshop is a stepping stone, because that's all it can be. I hope that it is, though, a stepping stone to you doing better in your circumstances. Take care. Bye-bye.